Istanbul in itself is like a little country, you know, it's full of contrasts and conflicts. What I find more difficult in Turkey today, and in all my fiction and my non-fiction, I try to accentuate this, is to be an individual in Turkey and to remain an individual. Because unfortunately it's a very, very polarized society and a very politicized society. So it's, for instance, just to give you an example, I have defended the right of, you know, college students over the 17, 18 years old who are wearing headscarves.
To keep their hair covered.
To keep their heads covered.
Which used to be illegal.
Which used to be illegal. If they want to go to university, because it's not fair, and as someone who cares for gender issues, I don't find it fair for women coming from conservative backgrounds. Sometimes this is the only way they can go into the public space. So I support it should be free. Not for children, headscarf, that's something completely different. But if they're adults, if they can make their own individual choices, and if they want to cover their heads, okay, I'm fine with it. But I also want to say no when, for instance, in Ankara subway, people, there's an announcement warning passengers not to kiss in public, and this coming from a conservative mayor in Ankara. I also want to criticize that. So it's very important for me to remain an individual and criticize the mistakes made on both sides.
It's not easy, though, is it? I mean, for example, a couple of brief answers, please, on key sort of social issues. Given what you've just said, I wonder where you stand on them. One is alcohol. It seems that a lot of people in Istanbul, some of whom are now protesting against Erdogan, are furious because the authorities have stopped the sale of alcohol between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I mean, to many others, that just seems a fairly sensible policy. In fact, in most of Europe, it's difficult to buy alcohol in a shop between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Why has that become such a hot-button issue in Istanbul?
I know you want short answers, but really it's very difficult to answer that in a short way because people don't trust. They're suspicious. They think we have conspiracy theories, you know, worries that there's a secret agenda, but basically people are worried that their lifestyle will be changed. And that fear is very real. What the government is, I think the mistake of the government is not to understand, not to try to understand that fear.
What about, and you talked about gender issues earlier, and here's a very important one. I just wonder whether you believe Prime Minister Erdogan has the right, I mean, he's exercised this right, I wonder if you think it's fair, to call for Turkish women, first of all, to see it as almost a national duty to have 3 children or more. He wants that. But also, he's adamant that abortion is wrong, and he's made very loud calls for Turkish women not to have abortions, indeed not even to have caesarean births. He doesn't like them either. Is that something where you think he is again adopting a sort of authoritarian strain of government?
I have been, you know, very vocal about this. I've written extensively in Turkey as well. I find the abortion, when they wanted to change the, you know, implementation, I found it very, very problematic. You cannot shorten the period for legal abortion in a country where there's so much domestic violence and incest and untold rape. That would mean women with money would go abroad to have abortion, but women who have no money, and these are the segments of the population who are more subject to be in this situation, will have to go to illegal doctors and you know, risk their own lives. I'm glad that the government didn't go ahead with that, but I found it very problematic that they wanted to limit the period for abortion. Women should be able to make that choice, and we have to remember that no woman would make that choice lightly.
But isn't it worth remembering that, first of all, compared with all of your Muslim neighbours in the Near and Middle East, Turkish women have extraordinary levels of freedom, and Turkish women play a very prominent role in business, in politics, in all aspects of public life, but also that the AK party over a decade has delivered massive economic transformation which has lifted women, particularly women, some could say, out of poverty into a new era of prosperity.
I think you're very right, absolutely. And in particularly if we compare Turkey with its neighboring, countries, definitely Turkish women and Kurdish women, I must say, are very active in many fields of life. So when you look at advertisement, media, academia, medicine, in all these fields, women are very vocal, very visible. However, there's one field in which women are almost non-existent, and that is politics. So local, regional, and national level, we can't see politics, and the few women are there have to defeminize themselves in order to exist strongly in that public space, which again I find very problematic. That needs to change, and in that sense politicians have been very, very reluctant to introduce positive quotas for women. And the second thing is, I think the language of politics in Turkey is very masculinist, and it's very, if I may say, aggressive.